What is going on, everybody? This is your boy, Coach Coleman, Jesse Coleman, and you're checking into another episode of Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast, where we help you tap into your full potential. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July because when you listen to this, 4th of July would have already happened. I hope everybody was safe. Hope you had fun. Hope you relaxed and did something just to recharge your battery. I'm not going to get into a long intro today because I have a special guest. And this is a woman that I've followed for a very long time from, getting into the KW ecosystem. I still remember being in a part of her classes or when she spoke and just the way she spoke and the power behind it. She was always somebody that I just like, okay, this is somebody I like to follow and, keep an eye on what they're doing. And she's just an amazing person. And the topic that we talked about over the past 2 episodes, I felt like it's amazing to just put a bow on it with her and we're us going through it. So I am not finna prolong it and keep talking and doing all these things. I am going to bring to the stage the amazing Brindley. What is going on? How are you?
Oh, what an intro, Jesse. That was amazing. Amazing. I
Yeah,
watch you now. I follow you now.
it's just amazing. Like when in our ecosystem, in our world, there's a lot of people that speak, there's a lot of people that teach. Then it's those certain people that just stick out where you're like, okay, I have to continue to follow and see what they're doing. They're just amazing. And you are one of those people from me where I'm like, I just got to keep seeing what she's doing and what's going on. So shout out to you for just being dope.
Oh, thank you for that. I will receive that. I will receive being dope.
Good, because it's definitely a compliment. So how's everything been going? I know we're gonna get into some stuff, but everything with you. I know we talked a little bit, offline, about how you just getting back into the groove of a lot of things. So just how's everything going with you?
Well, life is interesting and it's a journey. And midlife is an interesting time. It's a it's going to come, but you don't really know how you're going to experience it or what's going to happen. And you know, I think a lot of times in this business, a lot of us didn't grow up with success. We didn't grow up with a high amount of um, wealth and financial knowledge and education, and we didn't learn a lot. Some of us didn't even learn how to eat properly or hold our utensils. And then all of a sudden we're making 40, 60, sometimes 80, $100,000 a month. And you're on top of the world. You're untouchable. You are not, it's going to keep going. The ride is going to go and it's never going to end until it does. And usually it's because misalignment happens way before the burnout. And it's not conscious, it's unconscious.
And you know what's funny about that? So in the last episode, no, actually the episode before last, I talked about that because I had a conversation with a young lady in a class I was teaching. And I was talking about, hey, making sure we take care of ourselves. We don't want to burn out. And she
Mhm.
said, how I just don't know when it's coming. I'm like, the burnout just happened. I said, no, you actually, there are some signs that you're not paying attention to that is there. It's just like a car. When you're getting ready to go on E for gas, there are
Mhm.
signs that's flashing. I'm like, there are some signs in your life that's popping up that you're just not paying attention to until you burn out. Just like you said, where we just wait too late and then we burn out.
Yeah. And oftentimes we're being loyal to a system, right? I grew up in a system. I was raised by a single mom, only child. She started making $12,000 a year when I was, in 1985 as a secretary. And it was every morning was get up, get ready, get fed, get to school, get home from school, do your homework, go to bed, because that's how the system survived, right? In order for her to take care of both of us, it was always high urgency, go, 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 go. And so you learn that behavior. And then you are loyal to the system because it feels like a betrayal if you stop.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that we were programmed and the programming may not have been a I'm programming you, but it's what you see, it's what you hear, it's the things that's going on around you that programs you into who you are. So when
Mhm.
there's some people that do want to make a change, they kind of get overwhelmed when the change doesn't happen overnight. Like, well, you had 20, 30, 40, 50 years of programming one way that it's going to take some time for you to reprogram your thinking around things.
1,000%. And I had someone that we know very well. I won't say their name, but we know them very well. And this last transition, they sent me a text, and they said, and I was like, I'm coming out of a transition. It's been a really deep season of work. And she says to me, "You seem to go through a lot of those." And I simply wrote back. I mean, I gave her a little bit of, a joking. And then I wrote and I just said, I think we all do, just not everybody
Yeah.
talks about it. Because the whole purpose for being here is to grow. It's our whole purpose. But life gets in the way, all these other things. We compare insides to outsides, and we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to show weakness.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is that especially nowadays, people know everybody you're not perfect, but people
Mhm.
still want to put on this thing as they're perfect when on the flip side, no, people want to see your losses. They want to see you struggling because now they're already judging themselves off of other people. And if they see other people are struggling, it helps them out some. But people don't think about that.
That's
They
right.
just think about the image that they want to have of themselves. And let's be honest, the image that people care about somebody that has for them that they really don't care about. Like you
Mhm.
don't really care about this person, but you want to have a certain image around this person.
Mhm. That's right.
It's crazy.
That's
Yeah.
because we receive something from that. It gives us comfort. It gives us safety. When systems are formed, there's unspoken rules of the system that everyone follows because the system has created the rules.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the programming, most don't know this, but you are actually in your grandmother's womb. So what do I mean by that? A woman is carrying all of her eggs up to a certain time in utero, which means that me as a baby, as an egg, was in my mother when she was in my grandmother. Because a woman is born with a life supply of eggs, and they're already inside of her, unfertilized, before she's even born. So technically, your DNA is already being programmed by your grandmother through her pregnancy as well. And then
Wow.
the idea, and a lot of religious sects believe this, and there's a lot of controversy that trauma can be passed 4 generations forward, and we can carry it 4 generations. So we talk about survivor's guilt when we talk about the Holocaust. That's a very well-known secular way of describing that, is that survivors carried the guilt of those that did not survive, that did not live.
And that's something I actually didn't know about that where like you just explained, like your grandmother carried your mother and you were already there. Like I didn't know that. And that
Mhm.
actually explains a lot of not just the things we see from our parents, but like just actual mannerisms that just come about. And it's because we were already there,
That's right.
right? That is
That's right.
interesting.
That's right.
So, so you are what's it, a systemic
A
coach,
systemic
right?
coach. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, so what would be the difference between that and regular coaching?
So there's a difference. So a systemic coach is able to look at systems and patterns at a really high level. And they're able to see where misalignment is happening inside of any system. So the first system that we're all a part of is our family system. It's the first system that we're born into. And there's 3 laws, systemic laws. The first is belonging. Everyone in the system belongs. So oftentimes in our organizations, in our relationships, and our families, we'll exclude. We don't want them to be a part of, or we're not going to invite them to the meeting, or they're not really driving us with that. So exclusion starts to cause misalignment. And we all belong. We simply belong by being here. But those of us that were detached at birth, that had a lot of unknown parental guidance, if parental guidance was not stable, then now we're starting to see cracks in the system. we're starting to see misalignment around belonging. Do I belong here? Do I belong there? My personal story is that I actually was in foster for the first 2 weeks of my life. So I was separated at birth. I was put into with a foster family, and then I was brought back to my mother. So there was this ping pong, right, coming into the world of where do I belong? This one doesn't want me. Does this one want me? Does this one not want me? And now I'm seeking that belonging all throughout my life, in my friendships, in my relationships. And what we have to remember is that we belong simply by being here.
That so I'm just thinking about certain situations, even with me or people I know, and with you explaining that and going through that, I'm like, certain things start to click and make sense
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
by you saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the first one was belonging, right? So what
Belonging.
was
Yep.
what is the
The
next one?
second one is order and hierarchy. There's an order to everything, right? In the order of the family system, it's the father, the mother, then the child. The child is behind the mother and father because the mother and father are guiding them through the first 18 years of their life. That's an order. In business, we have an order, right? We oftentimes will say, well, who's bigger than the CEO? So in real estate, Jesse, we're in the Keller Williams system. So who's above? Let's say right now our president is Chris. So who's above Chris?
It would be the board, Gary, right?
Well, it would be
I
Gary
should be
first,
Gary.
right? Probably Gary
Yeah,
first. And then who would be above
yeah.
Gary? The
I
board.
probably should know this. Yeah, the
That would be
board.
the
Yeah.
board. That would be the board, right?
Okay.
And then we keep going. Okay, what's above the board? What's the system above the
That
Keller Williams board?
is no. I don't know that.
Right? So it's
Yeah.
we don't know the order. So if you walk into a Walmart, on every single wall in any Walmart store you go into anywhere in the country, there's a picture of Sam Walton on the wall
Hmm.
because the founder is always the beginning of the order. But then when we talk about order inside of our industry, and then we just got into this heat a little bit with the federal government, we started to believe that we were bigger than the federal government. We thought we could
Yeah.
control our money and our commissions, and we were above. And when the bigger system, right, is not respected and honored, they're going to come back because people are loyal to systems.
We thought we were bigger than the program.
That's right. So when we're in an organization, right, or we're in a relationship, we have to ask ourselves, are we in the proper order? Am I in the proper role? I just had a conversation with someone that they are without a team leader right now. And so there's a lot of confusion because this person is playing the TL, the OP, the investor. She's also an agent in the office. And those roles are becoming clouded and it's causing misalignment in the systems.
That makes me think about outside of the business world where, and maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of connected to that person that's trying to be everything for everybody, where there's no alignment, where they're all out of sync, they're out of whack because they're trying to be the president for this person, they're trying to be the co-CEO for this person, and they're just all over the place. So it seems like that's kind of like the same thing too when you think about it from the business side of things and the personal side of things.
1,000%. And that's what it was for me for a long time. I'm a rescuer, right? I rescue the way that I wanted to be rescued when I was that little girl, right? And so now I rescue. I also, to go a little bit deeper, there's a belief that if there's been terminated or lost pregnancies in your family system, in your family line, that we will take on the burden of the lost child, or we will put our friends in the position of sibling. And so we'll have expectations of other people and other roles. I talk about this a lot with step parenting, Jesse, right? The stepmother is never the mother. You can't, it's impossible. They already have a mother. And if you don't honor and respect the role, you don't have to honor and respect the person, but you have to honor and respect the role in order to keep the system aligned. That makes sense.
So that, yeah, no, because so it's one of those things of I hate to say it this way, but it's true. Like knowing your role and respecting the boundaries, not overstepping it, but
Right.
still being there and being present.
Exactly. We talk about it all the time in business when people go outside of their lanes. That's going
Yeah.
outside of the role. The universal law is order and hierarchy. There must be an order to everything. So if we're not following the order, we're causing misalignment.
Now, do you think that's because? And I'm pretty sure it's multiple reasons why we're some people just always want to be in control of things, or like you said, there's some programming of
Yeah.
something that they didn't have before that they want to. Hey, I
Yeah.
didn't have a an amazing parent, so I want to be that amazing parent, even if this is not my actual biological child. I still want to be that parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We always go towards the behavior or away from it, right? Each behavior, each experience, each situation shapes us. And really control is more about choice. People who control are not feeling like they have the power of choice.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot with people where they say like if I'm not in control, I just feel out of sync. I don't know that feeling, and I just have to control everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for some people, that's because they were raised in an environment that was completely uncontrollable. And so the only way that they could control was to control the thoughts in their head. So when they were then given the freedom, they're never going to go back to feeling that way. Their nervous system never wants to go back to feeling that way. So now, even if it's creating ceilings in their business, the nervous system is not going to let the behavior go because it doesn't want to go backwards. So we have to retrain it to learn that, wait a minute, you're not going to go backwards. We're just going to adopt a new behavior that's going to have a new outcome.
And it's all I can't remember where I recently just heard it from, where they said you're a person is either running from something or running to something, and a lot of it comes from the past of I had a bad childhood, so I'm running from that. Or I had an amazing childhood and I want to run towards that and create that environment for, my future kids or, the kids I have. So it seemed like it all comes back to what that programming was.
Well, we all carry things for the system. So when a role is missing or someone steps out of a role inside of a system, someone else in the system will take on the role. So we often see this if there was a family where there were multiple children and the father was absent. Most likely one of the sons took the role of the father and became the responsible child that took care of everyone. And now, fast forward 20 years later, they're taking care of everyone in their business, right? They've become that provider because that's what the belief is. I have to fulfill this role because no one else would. If I stop fulfilling this role, not only do I fail myself, I fail my family.
Mm.
It's a
It's
belief.
just so it's just so amazing how, again, our past kind of, I don't want to say it determines our future because we have the choice to make the changes we want to make, but it's easy to see why some people struggle with certain things because it's that programming, it's that system that they have for all those years, and if they don't know that they can change it, or they don't know like, hey, it doesn't have to be that way, you can see how they can just get stuck like that for the rest of their life.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Dead on.
So I want to ask a question. It's kind of off topic, but it's still on topic. It's why do you think why do you think people repeat the same pattern? So we talked about the systems and how they were brought up. Let's just say they're aware of that because again, people, if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. But if the people are aware of that, what are some of the things you think of why they continue to go down that same path or do those same things?
Because we're loyal to systems that we're a part of. Because it all goes back to belonging, right? So if I stop a behavior and it comes from the family, well, then am I letting the family go? Am I not carrying on their legacy? So rage was a big one in my family. And I was a big reactor. And everybody would say it was EQ, lack of EQ. I heard that all day long. I read emotional intelligence 80 million times. I worked with coaches, like all of it, but there was still this rage that would come, and I would see red. And it was tied to something very specific, that when someone would behave this way, I would just go into this justified protection of everyone, and you can't act like this. And what we found through the work that and the training that I've done is that it actually came down the line. And it came from a death of a father when my great grandmother was 5. And that's when the rage started, and it followed the line, and we can see who it came through. And we carried it because it was a lot of pain. And when there's a lot of pain to a system, everyone in the system will pick up the pain. And children specifically will pick up the pain and the emotion of their parent. They will start to carry the emotion for them. And if the parent doesn't clear the trauma, it's then passed to the child. When the child processes it and heals it, it could possibly go back to the parent.
Wow. Because I always think about the point of, and I've said it before, that kids don't do as we say, they do as we do. So it's like when they a certain age, like they start seeing
Mhm.
the how we're reacting and what's going on, and you can start seeing them picking that up.
Mhm. And that's why it's so important that this is why I'm doing this work now, Jesse, is because it's for the kids. It's for the future generations. We heal from the back forward so that we don't continue to pass these things along to future generations. I'm not ready to really go into it deep publicly yet, but I have found my father through this work. And I haven't found him, but I have found of him and know who
Right,
he is. And there's been a little bit of contact with that side of the family. And that brings up a whole nother range of emotions. And when you were talking about mannerisms earlier and characteristics, when you start meeting family members that you've never known at 46, you start to see,
yeah,
wow, like this is real, because my face looks like his, or my eyes look like theirs.
yeah.
And that changes the game. We're all connected, all of us.
That, yeah. I was going to go down a whole nother rabbit hole, but I'm not gonna go down there. Uh, so because again, like I said earlier, I kind of wanted to tie in our conversation because I know the work you do, I know the type of coaching you do, and I'm like, this would be amazing to tie into the episodes we had prior to this. So one of the things that I talked about is some of the times that the stuff, and we it's spot on because we just talked about this, that a lot of the stuff that we're carrying isn't ours. Like it came down from it. And here was a list of things that I talked about that came up. It was our family expectations,
Mhm,
our generational beliefs, our
mhm,
emotional burdens, and our relationship patterns.
mhm,
So for somebody who's not aware of these things and not aware that they could be carrying other people's situations, how would they, what are some exercises, or not even exercises, but what were some things where they can start realizing, like, hey, this BS that I'm carrying isn't mine. It was passed down on from a
mhm,
relationship, or expectation from my family, or things like that.
mhm. I think number one is we have to ask ourselves where we're not getting the results that we want in our lives. So where is there blockages? Where are we not getting where we want to go? So somebody somebody wrote me a text this morning, and they were like, "Do you have any time to talk this week?" And they said, "Your posts have resonated with me. I fudged the system," but they put another word there.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you can say the word on here.
right, and they said, I f the system. And I get excited about that when I hear that, because that means the truth is coming out. And when the truth starts to come out, systems have to reorganize around it. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get honest with ourselves. And if we can't get honest with ourselves, we have to find someone that we respect enough to get honest with us. And I don't
Yeah.
mean nice honesty. I mean kind honesty, but kind honesty is not always nice honesty. It hurts,
Yeah.
right? because it's painful, because we've stayed in comfort. It's supposed to hurt. It's the only way we come out of it. Our nervous system has to have some frame of reference to go back to know I don't want to go there or I do want to go there.
It's funny you say that because I was just thinking about me personally, where if I have somebody that's brutally honest with me, I get so pissed off at them for about 5-10 seconds.
Always.
Like after they said, I just be like, you know what? To hell with you. Like I
Yeah.
don't care. But then it's like that's when I know, like, okay, that was what I needed to hear. Because if it get me to where I get mad for a quick second, that
Mm-hmm.
was what I needed to hear right then and there.
Because
So
you're mad at
okay, so
yourself. Because you're really mad
exactly.
at yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, can we talk about that for a second? Just a quick, just a quick pivot. Because so we see that with people where they are mad at their self because they didn't do something, or they're not in business, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And instead of them having that look in the mirror like, hey, I'm in this position because of me, they project it to other people.
Yeah.
Like, what is the conversation? Because you coach people, I coach people, and we've had those situations where somebody, instead of them owning that, hey, you're in this position because of you, they project it on everything else. How do you handle that?
Jesse. I tried to handle it for a lot of years, and it got me into a lot of trouble because I thought I knew better than everybody else. Sometimes I still do. As a coach and someone that's passionate about impacting people's lives, like, I had a client I got so frustrated with about 2 weeks ago, and she will love that I shared this because she changed my life in like one comment. And I've been coaching for over a decade now. I mean, thousands and thousands of hours of calls. And I got really frustrated on this call because she's been saying she wants to do something. She's a very high achiever, high powered, wants to get into real estate. She's in a she's in a very executive job in corporate, and she keeps showing up, not doing it. And I got really frustrated. And she looked at me and she said, "You know what I love about you is that you care so much about your clients that you take on their energy." And what I realized was I wasn't frustrated at her. I was mirroring back to her the frustrated part of herself, the part of herself that was frustrated. That's what I was mirroring back with my energy. So I think number one, we have to be really careful, especially when we reach a certain level of coaching, of how much we control the energy, and that we will take on the energy of the client. And that's not our job. It's not our job because it's their journey. We're simply here to reveal. They have to resolve. And today may not be their time to resolve. They may not be ready. And that's not personal to me as a coach. I didn't fail. They're being loyal to their system, and the system isn't ready to release it yet. They're close. That's why they're here, but they're just not quite ready yet. And that's part of their journey.
And for you all that's listening or watching on YouTube, and you have aspirations to be a coach, or you just started on your coaching journey, like that is a big thing of being careful of taking on that, that energy, or judging and getting frustrated because they're not doing something. So you're projecting a little bit more onto them, when it's our job, as we know, is to help them self-discover, ask the right questions, let them think of like, oh, wait a minute, you know what, maybe it should do blah blah blah. So again, for you all listening that has those aspirations, that is definitely something that you want to think about and keep in the back of your mind, because it's going to come up to where somebody's going to get frustrated, you're going to match that energy, and then it goes from there.
Well, and I'm not even talking about reactive, because she wasn't frustrated on the call, right? She
Okay.
was bringing the excuses. I was the one getting frustrated for her, right? Like, you say you want
Got
this,
you.
but yet you're coming and you're doing, and what happens is I start wanting it more for the client than they want it for themselves.
Got you.
We don't have that power as coaches. And for a long time, I thought I did. I thought I had that much influence, Jesse, and I don't, right? I am simply the facilitator. Like you just said, I'm here to help them self-discover, offer value when I can. But I will say this, I think that I don't remember where I was going with that thought. So it must have not been that important. Next.
No,
It happens.
yeah. Well, but it just made me think about that of even with my coach. A lot of people were like, "Oh, you got a coach?" Like, yeah, I have a coach, and it
Mhm.
was a situation where she was brutally honest with me, and she said, "Hey, you are." Oh, how did she say it? I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but she said you are living beneath your. Pretty much, she was saying I
Sure.
was living beneath my potential. She like
Mhm.
you're showing up as not the Jesse
Mhm.
that you are, and I was mad for about 5 seconds. I'm like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, and then I was like, oh damn,
That's
you're
right.
right, and that was kind of like her way of saying like, hey, I am frustrated because you aren't
Mhm.
showing up the way I know and you can show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we also have to remember that it's not so much are they showing up or not, it's what's preventing them from showing up. And that's a deeper, much deeper conversation than the 30-minute call every week. And that's where I said I got to a point with my coaching where I have this amazing story God has given me. I need to go deeper. And so I started seeking for deeper. And I found systemic work and constellation work. And now we have a modality for it. And so it's been great. It's been great. But as coaches, we have to be really careful. We have to know our role and our responsibility because we have a fiduciary to the client, right?
Yeah,
I'm not here. I'm here to change lives, but I'm not here to change their life. They have to
yeah.
do that.
Now, how do you deal with well, this was something that I was told over a little bit of time of coaching is don't get emotionally attached to
That's what I was
the
gonna. That was the thought.
situation.
Empathy. Yes, 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 yes. That was the thought that escaped me. Empathy versus compassion.
Yeah,
A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm an empath. Oh, that coach is so great because they're empathetic." Empathy is not a good thing. I don't believe. Empathy is attachment. Compassion is empathy without attachment. So what do I mean by that? If I'm walking by a well and Jesse is in the bottom of the well and I jump into the well to help Jesse, now we're both in the well. Now we're both stuck. That's empathy. Compassion is I walk by the well, I see Jesse in the well, I go grab a rope, I throw it down, and I help Jesse out of the well. So many of
mm,
us jump into the well, and now we're in the problem with it. And that's when we start carrying it home, we carry it into our businesses, and now all of their energy is now inside of our businesses, and now we're entangled.
well, okay. So two things there. So the first part, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that think empathy and compassion are the exact
Same
same
thing.
thing.
Yep.
Right. And the second part of that just really you having that example of I fell in a hole, you jump in, or
Mhm.
you throw down the rope, that really stuck with me because when I talk to people about coaching, I say, hey, the coach is to have the helicopter view. While
Mhm.
you're in the weeds, while you're in the bushes, I have the overall view where I can see the whole thing. And that example you just gave pretty much ties into that because if I am in the weeds with you, I can't help to show you, hey, be careful of this up there. But if I'm the bird's eye view, I can say, hey, don't go that way because there's this over there. Go to your right. So it
That's
kind
right.
of ties in like, hey, there's a difference between compassion and empathy, and we can't put that together because now we're the lines are blurred and there's not those boundaries set there.
And Jesse, maybe you want to be in the hole. Maybe you want to be in the bottom of the well. Maybe you're hiding from somebody and that's where you want to be. Why should I jump in there and force you to get out? I can throw you the rope. And if you want the rope, you'll use it. But it's not my business to determine whether you belong in the well or not.
It's funny. I had to laugh when you said that because just little silly things like you'll see videos where something like that will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody would not know context of what's going on, and they'll run and try to do
Yep.
something, and the person that they helped or whatever, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? No, this I was trying to do
Mm-hmm.
this. This was what I wanted to do, and you
That's
messed
right.
it up." So it's
That's
it's
right.
one of those things where like, hey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just be aware and don't just jump to do things because you don't know, like you said, if that person wanted to be in a hole.
Yeah, that's right. Right? It's
Oh,
part of
that
their
is right.
journey. I don't have the power to take them out of the hole if they want to be in the hole. They might need to stay in the hole for a little bit longer because they haven't learned their lesson yet. I know for me, high achiever that has been grinding her entire life, typically God has to take me pretty low to teach me something. We're
That
all different.
I know for me, and going back to earlier, like the question I asked about, us repeating the same patterns over and over, and for me, just transparent, I was one of those people that I had to learn the hard way with things.
Mhm.
Like I had to learn, and I like kept going over, and it was one of those things where I didn't go as deep into the work as you did, which as we're talking, I'm like, maybe that's something I need to go a little bit deeper in. But I did realize, like, hey, the reason you are doing this is because of this situation. I was able to start pinpointing certain situations or things that happen, and like, oh, okay, now I understand why I continue to do that is because of A, B,
Yeah.
C, and D.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
that's
So
right. So you start to
now,
identify,
no, go ahead.
please. No, please,
No,
please.
no, because you was just finna say what I was about to ask of what we can do. So go ahead. Yep.
So, I always use my great grandmother as the example. So, great grandma was nanny. She was the villain. She was villainized by the entire family. So, I always grew up thinking she was a drunk. She was an abuser, that she physically abused my grandmother, and that she was the villain, and she was horrible. And she wasn't a great lady. There was a lot of pain, and she did cause a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. But that's all I knew about her. I knew nothing else, Jesse. We never talked about who she was, what caused it, nothing. It was just that she was a horrible woman. And so we always thought that the alcoholism in our family had come from her because she was the biggest drinker that caused the most pain. I mean, she owned brothels. I have newspaper clippings of her being raided in Pensacola. She serviced all the Navy men. So she set up like a pretty big operation. I always joke that that's where I get my entrepreneurial spirit from. I'm just staying in the law today. And so, I've struggled with recovery. I've been in recovery for, gosh, 14 years now. And so it is something that has run through my family line. And we've always blamed it on her. Well, I started doing this work, and there's a form of modality that I do with my clients called family constellation. And we do organizational constellations as well, where we map the system and we see where, because everything lies in our unconscious mind. We're just not always ready for everything to become conscious. And things become conscious when the nervous system is ready to make it conscious, meaning we're safe enough to do it. Because our unconscious mind has two jobs: keep us alive and give us what we want. So it's always seeking comfort, and it's always seeking safety. Period. Period. And so when we started doing constellation, we found out that it actually wasn't my great grandmother that brought the alcoholism into her family. It was her father, who died when she was 5. And the family took off and left Pensacola and went to Tampa. No one ever talked about this, Jesse. I never knew ever that my great great grandfather had passed when she was so young. No one ever talked about it. And so then I start realizing, wait a minute, it's not from her. Well, then I find out that her father was Black Irish, Prohibition, and he was a McLaughlin. And that's where the alcoholism came into the system, when my grandma Brindley married Kurt McLaughlin. So now all this blame in the system has been sitting on this woman for so many years. And many of us have taken on her emotion and carried that pain for her, because she got pregnant when she was 13. I mean, she got sexually molested when she was 13. Grandma was born at 15. And so we all carried parts of it. My uncle passed because of it. I carried rage. My aunt, we all carried different pieces of it. And so when I started realigning it, I was able to say, wait a minute, this isn't mine to carry. I didn't choose this disease. I didn't choose to become an alcoholic or to operate like this. And I also don't have to blame her, because she, with honor and love and respect, Her dad died at 5. That's big.
Yeah.
That's huge. Now you have compassion. I can have compassion for her without carrying her trauma. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
I think
again,
empathy is the highest form of deflection and projection to me, because we don't have to
it's
have our own problems when we're attached to others.
and that's exactly what I was going to say. It is crazy. Like we use everything, well, not everything, but we use a lot of things to deflect
Mhm.
and to push on to other things,
All of
right?
us, every single one of us. I did it probably 100 times already today because we don't realize we're doing it. It's unconscious.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
if
it's
you're on
that
this
programming.
journey, yeah, and if you're on this journey, you're going to be constantly shedding and shedding and shedding and shedding and shedding, because your whole goal is to get to your highest and best. And if you don't do it in this lifetime, some believe that you'll keep coming back until you do.
So for you all that's listening, what are the things? What are the things that you're carrying that it's not yours to carry?
That's right.
How is it affecting you? Like we have to put it down, figuring out like the trigger points and things like that. Of okay, why am I reacting this way? Oh, I'm reacting this way because this situation happened, and like, oh, that is not my situation to hold on to anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. And we have to be, I think we have to also give people grace, because we're all
yeah,
learning at different times in the journey. And I think these younger generations, it's going to be even harder, right? And they're going to need to feel that they can talk through these things. And again, systemic work is not about blame. It's not about the person. It's about the system.
yeah,
The system creates the rules. The system creates the loyalty, not just one person. The system is a sum of its parts. So every single person in the system forms the system. We all have DNA, period. And sometimes we have to decide, is this the system we want to be in? Or do we need to leave the system? Which I did recently. You know that. I've been in
yeah,
the Keller Williams ecosystem for now, gosh, 15 years. And I hit a
yeah,
ceiling. And I was like, I don't like who I'm becoming. I don't like who I am in this system. I don't even like what I'm doing or who I'm doing it with.
yeah,
Is this even the right place for me? Now, I didn't go run away from something and jump into something else. I just stepped back and got aligned with me. And who am I? And what do I want to be inside of this ecosystem if I'm going to step back out and step back in? Because the system's not going to change because of Brindley. I don't have that much power. It's how do I operate, right, inside of the system. And if
yeah,
I don't like how the system is operating, then I have the power of choice to step out.
yeah. You said something that I don't want us to just go past. You said I didn't leave the system and go jump to something else. You decided like I need to work on you. So many people do that where if something isn't right, and instead of them like you said, working on, you and getting yourself together, they go and jump to the next thing and realize why it's not work. They wonder why it's not working there, and they blame it on that system, and they blame it on the other system. Where now they're just bouncing back and forth, and they
Mhm.
think it's everything else but them.
Because wherever I go, there go I.
That was a bar. Yeah, that was a bar.
That's
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just it's real because you see it so much, not only in real estate, but just in life in general, where something would happen, a person would just jump right to the next thing right away. And then it's like thing happened or something else happened, like, okay, maybe it's that let me take a step back and work on me. That way I'm the best version of myself. And then like you said, if I go to this system and it just isn't working, okay, well, I make the conscious decision to move, and it's not just because I don't want to, take a look in the mirror and I just hop back and forth.
right. But again, we can't have judgment, because the root of all
Oh,
judgment is shame, right? It's
yeah,
not that they're doing it intentionally. They're just not ready. Thank God they've gotten this far. I'll take them today, exactly where they are. right? And today I will be okay with them leaving because I
Yeah.
know that maybe my only purpose was to plant a seed. Or maybe it was for them to get really mad at me because they needed that contrast because it's going to make sense for something else in their journey. I don't know. But as long as I show up aligned with myself, then I'm going to have an aligned world around me because I create it all anyway.
Yeah. I like that. And it was something I have to go back to because a lot of people don't believe when I share this. But you said Black Irish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my great grandfather was 100% Irish, and then when I
Uh-huh.
tell people that, they're like, "Oh, I don't believe it." I'm like, "No, he was 100%,
Yeah,
100%,
it's so
100%
great.
Irish." And it's just funny because we're still trying to figure out that whole path of like,
Yes.
how did he end up here? How did he marry my great grandmother? How did the kids came about and all that? So it was just when you said that, I'm like, I have to remember to
I
go
was going
back
to
to that.
tell you, I was going to tell you on your list where you mentioned all the things, the generational and all of
Yeah,
that, add cultural because we
yeah,
also we also are programmed by our cultures. So for
yes,
instance, I always use this one because it's the most dramatic, feudal China. If someone grew up in feudal communist China, they may start embodying some of that programming in their lives, their relationships, and their businesses. So, Jesse, I'm going to extend to you already a complimentary constellation. I'd love to extend one to one of your viewers
okay,
if you want to do a drawing or something like that. But
yeah,
that's
definitely.
exactly what this work is about: is where did that Black Irish 100% Irish come in, and how did that system marry this system? Because system marries system. We always attract our system, and then we form a new system. I could
Yeah.
talk about this for hours. You just got me really excited for our next call.
Yeah, we definitely have to hop on a call with that. Definitely. All right, as we get ready to wrap up, one thing I always do before I wrap up is I always ask my guests two questions. So the first question is, if there's one piece of advice that you would give to our listeners, what would that be?
Be kinder to yourself. Treat yourself like you would your childhood best friend.
Give yourself grace. And then
Mhm.
the second question I ask, and a lot of people, I catch them off guard with this one, but I don't think I'll catch you off guard with it. If you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you tell them?
You've got this, and you don't need anybody else.
Bingo. I knew I wouldn't get you. There's some people I ask that question, they're like, "Oh shit!" Like, wow. And then they just start thinking and processing, and it just turned into a whole thing. But I knew you would be able to get it. Brindley, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your day to
Thank
talk to
you.
me. Thank you so much for leading from the front. Leading by example, not
Thank you.
being
Not always.
one of yeah, just not being one of those people that, like we said earlier, like just always want to, oh, everything is sunshines and roses and all this stuff. Like, no, really being authentic, really being yourself, really stepping into your purpose and wanting to pour in to help other people. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, same back to you. I wish I had time. I would say all of that same thing back to you, Jesse. What a great conversation. Thank you so much. So, so much.
My pleasure. And everybody else, as always, thanks for checking into another episode of Breakthrough Blueprint, the podcast where we help you tap into your full potential. See you next week. Peace.